Speaking of Money in the Bank, Money in the Bank uh, emanated this past week from London. I believe it was this past Saturday, and it was great. WWE released a press release essentially saying that this year's Money in the Bank was the highest viewed, highest grossing Money in the Bank of all time. And for the right reasons. There was so much happening. There was so much going on. And I could go into a little bit of detail of a little bit of my takeaways from the show, my highlights of the show. First things first, man. The Bloodline Civil War tag team match, easily one of the most anticipated tag team matches in the history of WWE, and there were no tag team championships on the line, which should tell you the enormity of this story and how well developed and how well played out it's been. Obviously, Jay Uso getting the pin was phenomenal. It was a full circle moment. When my guy Omar brought it up to me. He said that Jay Uso was actually the first person to pin Roman Reigns on the main roster when he was a part of the Shield. And obviously, with his 3.5 year run of not being pinned or submitted, the fact that Jay was able to kind of pick up the win was just poetic justice. It came full circle, and there were little callbacks to matches that they had in the past. For example, a couple years ago when Jay and Roman were going head to head, there was a point in time where Jay went for the pin and Roman, to kick out of the pin, low blow Jay. And, the referee didn't see it. And this same spot was done this year, this time around. But this time it was Jay who was doing the low blow. And it was just a phenomenal callback. It was a phenomenal match. The cracks continue to develop, and now with a segment that's going to be on SmackDown tonight, with the court, the tribal court, with the tribal chief as well as the Usos. I can only imagine what's going to happen next. I'm very, very excited to see where Roman Reigns' character development goes. So that was the first thing. The second thing that I loved about Money in the Bank was the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. I think that it was really, 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 really well done. I think that was one of the best finishes I've seen from a ladder match and from a Money in the Bank ladder match I've ever seen, with Io kind of handcuffing Becky and Bailey together, literally climbing on top of Bailey's shoulders to get the Money in the Bank briefcase. I predicted that Io Sky would be the Mrs. Money in the Bank. And I honestly think that it's the best choice because there's already tensions between Bailey and Io Sky, right? And with that tension, with that pre-existing tension, you already have a story kind of in place. One of the things that I took away from the Money in the Bank uh, recipients, usually the best Money in the Bank recipients are the ones that are kind of groomed into being main event players after they win the contract, and the story that kind of serves as buffer between when they win the contract and when they get the championship. Um, I think the prime example of this is Edge. I think that when Edge won the Money in the Bank contract, the first Money in the Bank contract at WrestleMania 21, he was already seen as someone who can potentially be in the main event. However, the story between when he won that contract and that championship reign was when he went up against Matt Hardy, right? And the Matt Hardy Edge Lita kind of love saga was kind of the thing that kind of elevated him into main event status before he even captured the title. And I believe that what Matt Hardy and the Matt Hardy Edge and Lita story did for Edge's career is the same thing that a Bailey Io Sky storyline can do for Io's career. Bailey obviously is one of the most active four horsewomen in the WWE today. Obviously, in my opinion, one of the most iconic women's wrestlers of all time, a first ballot Hall of Famer, an absolute stacked resume. And I think that the fact that this story is can potentially happen, I think is very, very satisfying. I think it's super duper dope. Um, I love how there were so many kind of stories that were going into this Money in the Bank ladder match, the women's Money in the Bank ladder match, and that all of it played a role. Obviously, the Becky Trish, Zoe Stark kind of dynamic played a role in that match. Obviously, Becky and Bailey, who have had a lot of history, played a role in that match. Obviously, Bailey and Io, even down to when Io got pushed off a ladder initially by Bailey. I think that a lot of people just assumed that, oh my God, Bailey's gonna win. So to kind of see all these dynamics kind of come to a head, I think was really, really dope. So I thought that that was a beautiful, beautiful match. I really, 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 really liked it, and I think that the right person won. On to the men's Money in the Bank ladder match, because I think that it upset a lot of people. Because obviously over the past 2 to 3 weeks, the WWE superstar that has been grabbing everyone's attention easily has been LA Knight. I don't know what happened. He's always been an immensely talented professional wrestler in the ring, on the mic. But over the past month, he's just been gaining speed and momentum like never before, right? And I think that a lot of people saw him going into this match and was like, oh, he's for sure going to win it. And then when he didn't win it, there was a lot of disappointment. However, I actually first of all, I believe that Damian Priest deserved it just as much as LA Knight. Damian Priest has been putting in work over the past couple of years, especially when he joined the Judgment Day. I feel like his overall work has just been astounding. Obviously, the work that he's done with Bad Bunny has been incredible, and I believe that I believe that him being a part of the Judgment Day has helped him develop his character to the point where I don't think that he needs the Judgment Day anymore. And I think that him capturing that Money in the Bank briefcase kind of gives him flexibility, if you will, right? He can obviously cash in and stay in the Judgment Day and potentially be kind of like a leader of the Judgment Day. He could cash in and feud with Finn, and the Judgment Day can kind of split. There's so many ways that you can kind of go about this. And I feel like him capturing the Money in the Bank briefcase, I think was a great move because it allowed for so much flexibility and interest and nuance, even down to the dynamic between him and Finn Balor, right? Because obviously during that Seth versus Finn match, we saw Damian come out. It looked like he was about to cash in, and then next thing you know, he just kind of stood there. You know what I mean? And he, arguably cost Finn the match. And then on Monday night, we see Finn kind of, jumping in. He didn't come out with the rest of the Judgment Day at the beginning of the show, but then he came out when it was time for kind of Damien to get his lick and when he could have potentially cashed in. And you kind of saw that back and forth dynamic between Finn and Damien. So this is going to make for a very, very interesting dynamic and a very, very interesting story. I feel like LA Knight, I would have loved to see him win the Money in the Bank briefcase, but I feel like there's another opportunity for him in the near future. Obviously, there's Survivor Series, is the Royal Rumble, and I have a pitch, but I'm gonna wait until later to talk about it because it's gonna tie into another topic in the show. Um, I'm trying to think of anything else. Cody versus Dominic. It wasn't a squash, but I think that it was a good kind of a solid Cody win. Um, yeah, a solid Cody win, and I think that it kind of served as a good premise for him to approach Seth the following night on Raw, which led to Brock Lesnar returning, and now that kind of sets up Brock and Cody to have the rubber match potentially at another big show like SummerSlam. So I thought that was a nice little entertaining little diddly that they did there. But I think that was the biggest thing pertaining. These were the biggest things pertaining to kind of Money in the Bank. Obviously, the London crowd and the London crowd for Money in the Bank was absolutely electric. It was fantastic. Like if I feel like if you are acclimated to pro wrestling, especially in London, and you've been watching shows like the NXT UK shows, you already know that the UK is going to bring it. But I like, it was just so good. Like, that crowd is so hot, and it led to a very, very in my opinion, a very, very interesting and iconic moment. I'm going to segue into the next topic because